Coming up on Naperville News 17, we'll share the highlights of DuPage County's proposed budget, check out the site of a new shared field, and recognize the only Naperville police officer to have died in the line of duty. Hello everyone, I'm Kim Pierce. Thanks for joining us for this week's Naperville News. The proposed DuPage County budget has been released, but not all the asks have been answered. Naperville News 17's Christine Lena breaks down the details.
DuPage County's 2020 balanced budget comes in at $476 million, with a $183.9 million general revenue fund. County Board Chairman Dan Cronin presented the numbers and highlighted some areas where funds will be allocated.
My budget proposal dedicates resources to make one-time, significant investments in systems and technology that will ensure better delivery of county services.
Those services include providing the county clerk with e-poll books to improve voting wait times and increasing the clerk's budget for next year's presidential election. Yet many at public comment wanted to see more election improvements included in the budget.
You cannot expect the election division to continue their work with broken down, hand-me-down equipment. The 7 DuPage League of Women Voters groups encourage you to vote to fully fund the county clerk's request for elections.
The budget would also fund a study to research the potential savings from merging the county clerk's office with the recorder's office. Other money would go to the DuPage County Sheriff's Office so it can increase its staff and continue funding its state-of-the-art crime lab. It would also go toward replacing the 40-year-old real estate tax administration system, restoring the Human Service Grant Fund, and providing $100,000 to the Heroin Opioid Prevention and Education, or HOPE, Task Force.
How will we pay for these proposals? To ensure adequate, sustainable funding for our community's needs moving forward. In fiscal year 2020, I propose a minor adjustment to our property tax levy, covering the rate of inflation and accounting for new growth within the county.
That minor adjustment is to the property tax levy from $66.9 million to $68.8 million, a difference of less than $2 million.
To the average owner of a $250,000 house, this signifies a change of less than $4 yearly.
The board will consider the budget until it's expected to vote on it on November 26th. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Christine Lena.
The 2020 fiscal year begins on December 1st. The Fifth Avenue Steering Committee recently met to discuss the proposed baseline concept for the Fifth Avenue redevelopment project. The committee discussed several aspects of developer Ryan Company's baseline concept, including height and density, affordable housing, and green space.
With this project, it's one of the things that's been consistent is a variety of concern, none of which, not one is more important than the other. We don't always agree, but we're challenging each other, and hopefully what comes out of that is a really good, a solid vision, something that's unique that everybody can get behind.
The public also had a chance to weigh in after the committee, voicing concerns of traffic and pedestrian accessibility. City staff will compile feedback from residents and the steering committee and present their report on the baseline concept at the October 1st City Council meeting. Council will vote on whether to make Ryan's proposal the official baseline concept for the project. According to a 2015 report from Wireless Trade Association, CTIA, 90% of U.S. households use wireless service, and Naperville is looking to expand just that. Verizon Wireless is one of many cellular providers proposing to expand small cell network facilities around town. Representatives recently held a community meeting to discuss how they would improve Naperville's current 4G networks to 5G, which would enhance the quality and capacity of phone service.
These are going to be smaller cell tower sites that will be installed on existing city infrastructure, including our street lights and utility poles, to basically bring better cell service to our customers in Naperville.
5G is 100 times faster than 4G, allowing more customers to have better coverage in hard-to-reach areas. If you have questions about the small cell networks, you're encouraged to contact Verizon at improveyourwireless.com/Naperville. There's a new treat in store for downtown Naperville. Cinnaholic is moving into 41 West Jefferson Avenue, a section of what used to be the Russell's Dry Cleaners building. They're bringing their gourmet cinnamon rolls to town, hoping to sprinkle a little sweetness in the area.
We have about 18 different types of frosting, a variety of different toppings, about 15 different toppings as well. And we do also offer drinks, coffee, brownie bites, cookies. We do a lot of catering as well for all of those different products.
It will be the first Illinois location for both Cinnaholic and the recently opened Filson next door, where you'll find outdoor clothes and accessories. Construction is about to begin on the shop, and Barbera says she hopes Cinnaholic is open by the end of November. And this is one indulgence you can enjoy with a tiny bit less guilt, as their products are completely dairy-free and cholesterol-free. After the break, the importance of early education seen in a special screening. Knock Park is getting a new synthetic turf field. The District 203 School Board just approved an intergovernmental agreement with the Naperville Park District to split the costs of constructing the multi-purpose field. It will cost over $4.2 million, with the Park District paying 57%, or roughly $2.4 million. That leaves the school district to pay the remaining 43%, or about $1.8 million.
This is a project we've been talking about and working on for some time. When we were talking about improvements to Knock Park and how it could benefit taxpayers and residents of District 203 as well as those of the Naperville Park District, both groups were able to come together and I think identify ways to do that.
Field use will break down similarly to payment, with the Park District slotted for play on the weekends, some evenings, and the majority of the summer. District 203 teams will get weekday afternoons and some evenings during the school year. The Park District will also rent the field to outside groups when available in order to help cover regular maintenance costs of the new field. Any costs not covered by rental fees would leave additional maintenance to be split in those same percentages as established in the IGA. Field work will be complete by next fall. This project coincides with the new Naperville Central softball field that's currently underway and should be ready for play next spring. A report about School District 204 staffing was presented at the latest board meeting. Naperville News 17's Christian Kenizal tells us more about it.
You may have noticed the new faces at District 204 schools, and that's because 116 teachers were hired for the new school year. At the latest Indian Prairie School District 204 board meeting, officials presented a report about the landscape of its staff. The district saw an increase of 27.2 full-time equivalency staff positions, which includes teachers, nurses, and other staff.
We have remained within budget. The majority of our licensed increases are related to EBF, supporting mental health and smaller class sizes at Title I schools. The increase also reflects support to the program Achieve at Wheatland Academy.
District 204 got a head start on the hiring process this year, completing most of it in the spring. As part of the recruiting efforts, IPSD focused on hiring minority staff members to improve diversity within the district.
This past year, 12.4% of our new licensed hires were persons of color. When I say licensed hire, I'm referring to our teaching staff. Last year, that number was 8.5%. And last year was lower than previous years.
Across District 204, 16% of staff are people of color. There are still several open teaching positions available within the district, and that's because there's not enough qualified people to fill them.
Last year, the state of Illinois could not fill over 1,400 teaching positions. 1,300 support personnel positions and around 80 administrative positions. So that continues to be a challenge. They're expecting the numbers this year to be even greater than that.
The district will continue its recruiting strategies by attending more college job fairs, which includes visiting several historically black colleges and universities. For Naperville News 17, I'm Christian Kenizal.
It's that time of year when your student may be diving into their college applications. Our own Christine Lena has some top tips for just that.
The college application process can be daunting, but there are lots of ways to make it easier. C2 Education recently held a talk at the Nichols Library to give students and parents some college admissions tips.
It's never too early to start thinking about what colleges do I want to apply to and what kinds of things are going to be on my application. I mean, a lot of people think about test scores, but there's a lot more that goes into it that you can even start planning from 8th grade and 9th grade in terms of what classes you're going to take and what extracurriculars you're going to have and things like that.
And that's the top tip for students. You can never start too early on your applications and essays.
The number one thing I tell parents and students about college essays is to get outside feedback. And that can come from obviously students' friends and teachers and family members, but it's even better if you can have someone read your essay who doesn't know you at all. Because the main purpose of a college essay is to show the college admissions officer something about yourself that isn't elsewhere on your applications.
While it's important to think of the holistic parts of your application, the number one thing admissions officers look for is academics, both in coursework and test scores.
Because after all, college is more school. So we want to make sure that you're a good student on paper so you can continue to be a good student while you're there.
Most colleges and universities have an early admission deadline of November 1st, with a regular admission deadline of January 1st. Reporting for Naperville News 17, I'm Christine Lena.
And some think it's never too early to start thinking about education. The DuPage Children's Museum partnered with several other local organizations to bring a film to town focused on just that. Our own Casey Krajewski was there for the screening.
The importance of early childhood education took to the big screen recently, courtesy of the DuPage Children's Museum. The Hollywood Palms hosted the Western Suburban premiere of the documentary No Small Matter.
No Small Matter is the first feature-length documentary really exploring the importance of the most important investment in our country we could possibly make, and that's early childhood education.
The central problem is that the ability to provide that nurturing attention early in life is less than ever before.
The documentary argues for the benefits of learning through play, which is a belief shared by many local educators.
One of the things that we've done in District 203 is we've really taken a strong belief and value in our early childhood process. And we've got a commitment within our blueprint that really uses our early childhood services.
The museum invited local experts to speak on a panel following the screening of the film. They explained how investing in early childhood education shows benefits long after the student leaves pre-K.
It makes them much better prepared for the workforce once they leave high school and even getting into college years. So what you do very early on with that brain growth and development, enriching their experiences, that makes them much better later on in life.
For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
No Small Matter is not yet offered for home viewing, but you can sign up to be notified when it is available at nosmallmatter.com/preorder. Coming up, an exceptional athlete shares a lesson in being true to yourself.
Welcome back to the game show, Who Is It? Today our contestant Sally is in the process of figuring out which one of our panelists is the real Crime Stopper. Sally, you have one more question for each panelist, then you will need to decide.
Number one, when I call Crime Stoppers with a tip, do I need to leave my name?
Absolutely not. You remain anonymous.
Number two, if my tip leads to an arrest, what's in it for me?
A cash reward for up to $1,000 for one thing.
And number three, what is the Crime Stoppers tip line?
630-420-6006.
So who is it? Oh, sorry, time's up. Sally, we need your decision. Who's the real Crime Stopper?
They all are.
You're right. But how did you know?
'Cause I'm a Crime Stopper too.
The Naperville Police Department recently joined forces with state agencies for Illinois Rail Safety Week. The 6th annual Illinois Rail Safety Week ran from September 22nd through 28th and aimed to remind the public how to be safe around trains and train tracks. Police officers focused their efforts at River Road and Loomis Street crossings, where both pedestrians and vehicles can cross over the tracks. They were on hand to cite and educate those who disobeyed the law.
So some of the violations are just crossing when the gates are down. That's either a vehicle and or a pedestrian. So when the gates are down, the signals are alarming, the flashing lights are activated, you cannot cross over the tracks at that time. So those are the main violations, if any, we see. We've been participating in this in the last 4 years, and I think over that time period we've maybe only seen 1 or 2 violations in that time.
Sergeant Zook offered some tips when crossing the rails. Look both ways before you cross, wait until the gates go all the way up, and cross the tracks as quickly as possible. And another tip, while waiting on your train, stay behind the platform safety lines. For more information and tips, you can check out IllinoisRailSafetyWeek.com. Naperville Neighbors United has already touched on several important topics in their first few meetings. Our own Casey Krajewski tells us what their most recent discussion involved.
Implicit bias was the topic of conversation at the most recent Naperville Neighbors United meeting. School District 203's Dr. Raketa Leeks and District 204's Jennifer Rowe led the roomful of participants through different activities on the subject. But what exactly is implicit bias?
It's kind of those assumptions that we make, and oftentimes they're unintentional. But we know, just as other things such as racism, that the impact can be the same.
The crowd then broke off into smaller groups to discuss different biases found both in the media and themselves. Dr. Leeks suggested the online Harvard University Implicit Association test as a way to identify biases you might not even know you have.
It helps you to see what automatic associations you make about certain groups of people. And they have lots of different tests that you can take. You can take tests to see if you carry any biases based on gender, race, ethnicity, religion, age, weight, or size. There's so many different ways you can look to see.
Once those biases are identified, the best way to counter them is to branch out and talk to people different than you.
Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that are different, and have different thoughts and beliefs and look different than you. When you're extending yourself and able to have real conversations, I think sharing conversations and stories with people, that allows you to open up your perspective a lot more.
For Naperville News 17, I'm Casey Krajewski.
On a related note, a discussion about acceptance and inclusivity was held at Mattia Valley's auditorium. Naperville News 17's Christian Kenazal tells us more about the speaker and his story.
For Skylar Baylor, it hasn't always been easy to talk about himself. And that's because part of his life, he wasn't himself.
So at birth, I was assigned female. And I spent most of my childhood acting and presenting in the way that made me the most comfortable, and I didn't think a whole lot about it, and then it ended up being in this sort of boyish, masculine sense.
Despite being assigned as female, some thought Baylor looked like a boy, which led to him being bullied.
And I was thrown out of every single girl's bathroom that I ever went into, and I was constantly ridiculed for not looking like a girl, and they'd be like, "What are you doing in here? Get out of here, like no boys in here." And I was like, I'm 9, I'm like, I just have to pee.
Baylor, the first openly transgender athlete to compete in any sport on an NCAA Division I men's team, shared his experience of the transition from female to male with community members who gathered at Mattia Valley's auditorium. After high school, Baylor committed to swim for the women's team at Harvard University. But before he could even step a foot on campus, Baylor enrolled in a treatment center in Miami.
And in that space, for the first time in my life, I was able to say that I am transgender.
After realizing who he is, Baylor stuck with swimming, but this time with the men's team, and would go on to have a successful career. After the discussion, audience members had the opportunity to ask Baylor some questions. One audience member asked what his family thought about Baylor coming out. He recalled the time when he told his grandparents.
My grandfather starts to clap. And he's like, "So, you come out of the closet." And my grandmother says, "I knew that." I'm like, "How many of you spent my entire childhood giving me pink dresses? How did you know that?" She's like, "I knew that."
Baylor ended the night with a heartfelt message.
That you can be exactly who you are, whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be trans or queer or gay or something to do with the LGBTQ spectrum. It can be something that differs from what your parents expect from you or society at large expects from you. You can be exactly that and also do what you love. Your identity does not have to ever rob you of your own passions.
Finding a strength you might have not known you had. For Naperville News 17, I'm Christian Canizel.
Skylar's appearance was made possible by District 204's Parent Diversity Advisory Council. The group alerted District 203 to his visit so they could have him speak at Naperville Central as well. Up next, no running near the pool, just in the pool at this special class.
Certain words come to mind when thinking about indoor pools: swimming, diving, and of course, some splashing. But folks at Move Up Sports Performance and Rehab in Aurora are utilizing a more unusual word inside their pool: running. With the use of underwater treadmills, the AquaStride and Strength class have employed underwater training, meant for those who are coming back from injury or looking to avoid the harmful impact that comes from running on land.
Running hits back, the road hits back, and the water doesn't. So you can have the same benefits cardiovascularly, muscularly, and endurance-wise in the water as you get on the ground.
Tobiason, a coach and the owner of Move Up, said there's a 98% decrease in impact from running in water versus on land. While the class is meant to be less stressful on joints and muscles, participants still get a workout, running for about 45 minutes, covering roughly 4 miles during that stretch.
I thought it would be easy, and it's not. Even today, just getting up early, I was like, oh, I'll just get in there and it'll be over. And then you get in and you're like, wow. And it's difficult. You start sweating and you don't expect it because you're in the water, but it's fine.
After their run, class members transition to the shallow part of the pool for the strength portion of the workout, or as Move Up calls it, Aqua Boom.
You can do push-ups, pull-ups, dips, squats, pretty much anything that you can do in a functional fitness rig on the ground. Again, in the water, all floating your body weight so you get the same benefits. Also building confidence. Oh, I can't do this out on the fitness floor, but I can do it in the water. So it's a great class.
But if you're not a fan of the water, Move Up does have regular treadmills and other group classes available. Reporting for Sports Story Sunday, I'm Christian Canizel.
And if you have an idea for a Sports Story feature, you can let us know at newstips@nctv17.com. A Naperville police officer who died in the line of duty over 90 years ago has received a special honor. The Naperville Police Department recently held a ceremony for Chief Robert Worthel, unveiling a permanent reminder of his service and sacrifice. The section of School Street between Washington and Ellsworth Streets will now be known as Chief Robert Worthel Memorial Way. It's a way to bring his name and memory into the present.
We've had such an influx of brand new officers come in our department over the last several years, and I started to ask some of them, I said, hey, are you aware of who Chief Robert Worthel is? And I got many answers that said, no, I don't know who Chief Robert Worthel is. And I knew at that point we weren't sharing what his story was or what it was about.
The location of the street dedication plays a part in that story. It was there on September 24th, 1927, that Worthel was killed in a motorcycle accident. At the time, he was tracking down suspects in a robbery. His relatives took part in the special ceremony, holding duplicate street signs bearing his name and speaking of his service.
He died doing the job that he loved, and I know he'll be watching all over you to keep you safe and protect you and serve the city of Naperville.
Saving a Hero's Place, a nonprofit whose mission is to remember fallen officers, also donated a handmade chair in honor of Worthel. It will be placed in the police department's roll call room in his memory. Worthel is the only Naperville police officer ever to have died in the line of duty. And that's what's happening right here in your neighborhood, Naperville. We'll see you next week. Until then, you can catch up on local news by signing up for our NCTV 17 news update delivered right to your inbox Monday through Friday. Sign-up information is right on our website, nctv17.com.
This week's Naperville News 17 is brought to you in part by the following sponsors. This program is partially funded by a grant from the City of Naperville.